The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Okay, so we are going to go ahead and get started here. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us today. This is Courtney with the LSA, and I'd like to welcome all of the attendees to our webinar series. Today's webinar is titled Getting Local Businesses Voice Search Ready and will be brought to you by our guest presenter, Bernadette from Advice Local. During the webinar, please feel free to type any questions that you have in the question box on the screen, and we can address those following the presentation. Before we get started, just a few things about today's webinar. Next slide, please. So this webinar will be recorded and available within 48 hours. We will email all of the registrants with a link. So you'll get that within 48 hours. So you'll be able to go back and look through the presentation. And then you can also view past webinars on our website by looking under the Insights tab and clicking Webinars. And additionally, like I said, if you have any questions, please type them into the questions box and I can answer those for you as they come in. So with that, let's get started. Over to you, Bernadette.
Thank you very much. Hello, everybody. I'm very excited to be here talking about voice search. Today I'm going to do a little bit of an intro, talk about what some of the factors are that affect voice search, and actually hopefully give you some actionable items that you can turn around and use for yourself or your clients to help them rank higher in voice search. So I think that voice search is very exciting. As a matter of fact, last year, every conference I went to, everybody was talking about voice search. You were hearing things being bounced around the conference about 50% of all searches will be voice searches by the year 2020. And it really got me interested, and I really thought, wow, this is going to be a big game changer for us. And it's proved that it is, and it's getting more and more exciting as we get moving into 2019. And you can just tell how important it is to the space out there when you see companies like Alphabet, Apple, Microsoft, Facebook, and Amazon spending as much as 10% of their annual research and development budgets just on voice search and voice search technology. But something that I noticed this year, starting in 2019, and I've been to actually 4 conferences so far just this year, it's not being talked about as much all of a sudden. It's no longer a novel concept. More now, they're talking about how do we get our businesses to show on Google's Voice Assistant, which, by the way, is powering over 1 billion devices today. And what about Amazon Alexa, Apple and Siri, and Microsoft Cortana? They're also assisting customers with purchasing decisions. And you can see here by this little chart, there's a heck of a lot of devices out there. So that just shows today how integrated it is in our lives. Alexa has over 100 million devices. Microsoft Cortana, which is on every Windows laptop or computer, has over 400 million. Apple has 500 million. But Google, which again tells us how important Google is, over 1 billion devices out there today featuring Google Voice Assistant. So interesting enough, it's gone beyond, I'm sorry that you guys can't see the slide that much, but it's gone beyond home-based mobile. Right now, there's something that's kind of interesting, and they're calling it consumer conference. Do you know that more than half of drivers today, 53% of drivers, are engaging with voice assistants while driving? And most of these are built into the cars today. So beyond home-based mobile assistance is a brave new world out there, and we're calling it consumer conference. Voice shopping is also on the verge of going mainstream. Home assistant sales are increasing year over year, but typically every conference I go to, there's still so many questions about how. Agencies are confused, especially I just went to the Franchise Association conference this past week, and brands are still trying to figure out how to capture and engage with voice search visitors. And it's becoming now the most important thing and most important question that I'm being asked as an agency owner. So we do know that voice search is changing the way traditional optimization is approached. A lot of my colleagues are kind of shell-shocked. They don't know where to go or where to start. They're scrambling to figure out a solution. If you are a little late to the game, don't worry. Hopefully today I'm going to give you some actionable items that are going to help you pick up that slack. But I do have to say that the clock is ticking, and if you haven't already started voice search optimization, it is time to start now, or you are going to be way behind the game. So 2019 and beyond, Google is going to dominate the voice search industry. What is voice search? It's very simple. You take a spoken query and it returns a spoken query result or a screen result. That's all voice search is. Yet today, voice search is still only great for single response queries, right? So it does not make decisions for you. You can ask it a question like, what is the temperature outside? And it's going to say, well, it's 70 degrees Fahrenheit. But what it doesn't do yet is it still fails at decision support. So you can't ask it a question like, for example, if you ask it, what's the best Netflix series to binge watch? Well, it's not going to tell you what the next best Netflix series is. It's going to give you a list, and you still need to step up and make that decision on what you want to watch. So the point is as I go through this presentation, you don't want to base your marketing strategy strictly on voice search. You still want to continue to focus on your fundamentals of SEO, but add some of these points to your SEO strategy. We are visual creatures, and when we have choices, we still want to see them. So voice search is technology that allows users to perform internet searches by speaking aloud instead of typing into a search field. One of the reasons why this is becoming so popular is the convenience. When your hands are otherwise occupied, like we saw in the previous slide where people in cars are talking to their voice search devices, or when you're having a hard time seeing the screen, we turn to voice search. It's important because of the reliability today in the expansion of these technologies. It's easier for us to speak. And we're finding every day that voice search is playing more of an important part in our lives. So this is an interesting statistic, and until I was doing my research, I didn't realize. But for those of you who use a Windows computer, did you know that 25% of searches on a Windows 10 desktop is done by voice search? And that's pretty powerful when you think about it, but when you're a multitasker such as me, it allows you to do two things at once very easily. So we're seeing a strong rise in Windows desktop search. Google mobile searches, today 20% of all mobile queries are voice searches. Again, very powerful for Google. And the voice search trend is growing quickly. As you can see here from this chart, voice search has grown 35% since 2008. But The interesting thing is you may think that a lot of the people that are using voice search are younger. Stone Temple Consulting found that the age group between 35 and 44 actually has the biggest numbers of users. In the 25 to 34 range were the most comfortable using voice search. But interestingly enough, 41% of adults use voice search as opposed to 55% of teens. That's almost 50-50. So if you think about it, the older generation, most of our businesses' target markets are using voice search. And let's take it one more step. The 65 and older range, these older generations, which by the way I almost fall into right now, are using this new technology. They're increasingly using it for a couple reasons. When you get older, you can't see as well, so that tiny keypad is very hard. There's a glaring screen. It's easier for them to speak than type, so there's a lot of practicality in it. And it gives them a lot of benefits of the smart home technology. So we're finding them being used more and more by the people between the ages of 45 and 65, not just 25 to 44. So that's a story in itself. The practicality of it all makes it very, very popular. When I wrote this presentation, the Echo skills were at 30,000. Today I checked, they're at 70,000 different skills that you can use with Echo. Smart speakers are going to be on a refrigerator. Every home will have one. As this last Christmas, Amazon came out with a microwave that has Amazon Alexa in it. So again, ComScore expects by the year 2020, which is not that far away, 50% of all searches will be made by voice. Again, preparing now is the key. So let's just look at a couple of things. What are the main drivers? First of all, the main drivers are searching with your voice is 3.7 times faster than typing. And this comes directly from Bing research. It's easier to speak. When you're talking, you can say 110 to 150 words per minute, as opposed to typing, which is on an average between 38 to 40. So if you're into instant gratification, voice search is a lot easier to use. Secondly, voice searches are faster. So you get the answer quicker by speaking it than you do typing it. So according to Stone Temple, they found that 60% of mobile searches use voice search at least some of the time. So, and you can see from this chart here, voice search lands right around here. And here, typing the question into a search engine app just is only 2 percentage points higher than that. The next thing is it's just really more convenient. Most people don't want to type. There are many times we're in a position where we can't type. If you're driving in a car, if you're doing chores around the house, it's easier just to turn to your Alexa device, your Google Home Mini, and ask that question. So these are the drivers. It's really about convenience right now, being able to just open your voice and speak without having to take the time, go pick up your phone or go to your computer, pick it up, and then typing in. It's so simple, it's so straightforward that it really is changing consumer behavior. It helps searchers with anything they want without even typing a single word. So you don't even have to remember like how to spell quiche, because you don't have to care. All you got to do is speak it. Again, very important driver in the voice search sector. And as it turns out, searching with your voice is very different than typing. So now it's changing the way people search, which then turns into changing the way we as an industry have to do local search optimization. So it's changing how people search, when people search, and what they search for. So let's dig into that a little bit more. So interestingly enough, I read an article recently by one of the founders of VoiceBot Podcast. And what they're saying is smart speakers are bringing radio back into the home. So again, we're almost reverting back to how we interacted with different things before. And if you look at this chart here, music is the very top thing that people are using their devices for, right? The next is weather forecasts, fun questions, and the fourth is online service searches. And that's where we come in here. So also, interestingly enough, if you're doing those searches or listening to Alexa, people are much more likely to skip ads on Alexa. So it's more inconvenient to tell your Alexa to skip forward 30 seconds than it is just to let those ads play. So it's going to become a very important part of our ongoing marketing strategy just for that reason alone. So when you're talking and doing voice searches, we found something very interesting. Voice searches are way more conversational. So typically, text searches are around 1 to 3 keywords, but when you're doing a voice search, the number of keywords and voice inputs are usually closer to 10 plus keywords. So that's very important. For example, in the olden days, if I wanted to brew coffee at home or have a cold cup of coffee, I would go to my search engine and look for a recipe, and I would type in something like make cold brew. Today, it's completely different. So what I would do now is pick up my phone or turn to my Alexa and say, hey, Google, how do you make cold brew coffee at home? That's simple. So as you can see, the context of the keywords that we're using on voice search is a lot longer. So that's going to affect how we do our optimization. It's also changing where people search. So it's not often that people carry a laptop around with them, but with your mobile device, you can search in many different places very easily. And so people are searching everywhere right now. And you can see from this chart the difference in growth from 2017 to 18, and now that we're in 2019, it's going to be even stronger than that. But people search in the office, at home, but also on public transportations, while they're in the restaurants, in the office, at a party, at the gym, in a restaurant, in a public restroom, in a theater even though they tell you to put your phones away. So we're searching everywhere. So it's not just about where we're searching or what we're searching for, it's where we're searching also. So that's a very interesting statistic that I thought I'd share with you. Now, we're also changing how people get results. So Google is no longer a search engine, it's an answer engine, right? In fact, if you go to these, the search features like the knowledge graph and the featured snippets, the number of organic clicks has dropped by 37% because we're getting the answers right when we get to the Google search pages. We don't have to go to different websites to find our answers. So right then and there, we've changed how we're searching and how we are getting our results. So optimizing for voice knowledge graphs and feature snippets are a very important part of your SEO tactics if you want to rank for voice search. And we'll talk a little bit more about that later. So Google's also changing the results they deliver. Google's using the same answer-focused technology to provide voice search results that they use on the Google answer on the first box on the first page. For example, let's say you wanted to know how many calories are in an apple. Back in the day, you would search for apple calories and sift through a bunch of different results. But today, all you got to do is ask Google how many calories are in an apple, and it'll be read back to you within seconds. Very convenient. So that leads me to how do we do some of our optimizations for voice search. So you have to be able now not just to optimize for your basic keywords, but longer tail keywords, 5 keywords or more, and optimize, for example, not food on paleo diet, but what can't you eat on a paleo diet? How long has a paleo diet been around? What vegetables are not paleo? As you can see, these are longer tail keywords, and these are the type of question-like keywords that need to be sprinkled throughout your content today. So here is an interesting report that came out earlier this last year. And this report was done by Backlinko, and I don't know how many of you are familiar with Backlinko, but they are a very well-respected agency. They put out some amazing research, but I love their studies that they do. And they did a voice search study, and they analyzed 10,000 Google Home search results and came back to us with some pretty actionable things that we can do. And using these actionable items will help you rank higher for your clients or yourself on voice search. So the number one thing they found out is, or one of the top things they found out is that Google's voice search algorithm uses page speed as a ranking signal. In fact, the average voice search result page loads in 4.6 seconds, which is 52% faster than the rest of the web. So we know that people want to be using voice search to get instant answers. So Google needs to make sure that the answers that come back the quickest are the ones that they can grab as part of their algorithm to display or to speak on the voice devices. So therefore, if you want to rank well in voice search, it is very, very important to make sure that your site loads as quickly as possible. So again, page speed, very, very important for voice search. Number two, we still know that 25% of websites out there do not have HTTPS adoption. Google has stated that HTTPS can give your website a minimal boost, but data also suggests that they are using that as a trust factor when they're looking for a voice search result. As a matter of fact, 70% of voice search results, URLs, have HTTPS adoption. So again, if your site does not have it, it's time to add it to your site. The other interesting thing that we uncovered is that the voice search results tend to be short and concise. So I don't know how many of you have read Google Search Rater Guidelines, but they clearly identify a lot of things as it results to SEO. They don't tell you how the algorithm works, but they do allow you to see what the search raters are looking for. And one of the things that it says in the Search Raters Guidelines is that they want voice search results to be very brief and to the point. Now, this is contradictory to one of the next slides I'm going to show you in optimizing for voice search, but let's just stop here for a second and understand very quick, concise results of what Google wants to give the searcher on voice search. Interestingly enough, we found that the average voice search answer is 29 words. So if you ask Google, are figs good for you, we noticed that we got exactly 29 keywords, answers, words back in the answer. So they want to give short, quick, accurate answers. So when you're doing your optimization and you're optimizing for questions for Google's answer box, also optimize for voice search with concise, short answers. The other interesting thing is it's looking for content that's easy to read and understand and ranks, and that's what ranks well in voice search. So Google's Voice Search Rater Guidelines emphasizes elocution. I had to look it up because I wasn't exactly sure what it means. But basically, it states, is it easy to understand the answer to your voice search? So the simpler the language, the easier it is for Google to nail the elocution factor, and the average reading level that it looks for is right around a 9th grade reading level. The next thing that we found was you want to write content with natural language. So voice searches are more natural and less robotic than keyword searches, right? And you want to write your content the same way someone will ask you a question. We want to embed long-tail keywords into long-form content. So here's where we start getting a little contradictory. Voice searches are significantly longer than keyword searches. So remember we said as opposed to 3 words, sometimes there's as many as 5 to 10 words. But one of the most surprising findings that we found is that less than 2% of all the voice search results had those voice search results in the title tag. So instead of looking at the title tags, they're actually pulling the content out of the content on your page. And the title tags are not even matching, but yet they can still find that content on your site. So again, making sure you embed these long tail keywords into your content in the forms of questions are going to help you rank for search, voice search. Google recently launched something called Speakable. Speakable is a new schema markup that enables us to mark up sections of our websites so that it's able to be read aloud by the Google Assistant. So if you haven't put appropriate schema on your site, now's the time. As a matter of fact, Google has added a lot more different types of schema. I would do an audit on your site to make sure that not only do you or are you adding the Speakable schema to your site, but look at all the other ones that Google has recently launched and make sure if they do fit the criteria of your site or your client site that we add it to it. Title tag optimization today does not appear to play as an important role on voice search. So again, don't worry so much about the title tags, worry about your content. And then appearing in featured snippets appears to be very extremely helpful for voice search because they're using the same algorithm. So if you can optimize and get your content to appear in a voice snippet, in a featured snippet, chances are if they ask that question to a device or a Google device, you are going to have that same snippet be read out loud to use. Matter of fact, 40.7% of all voice search results are coming from a featured snippet. So that being said, last year we started going back and creating FAQ pages for every single website that we manage or monitor today, and that's perfect for voice search. So why is question keywords are on the rise? Excuse me, and voice search results are 2 times more likely to come from a well-optimized FAQ page. So if you don't have a well-optimized FAQ page on your site, now is the time to add it. Bing recently stated that in their studies, when you are doing your words in question format, make sure that you always add the filler keywords. It's very surprising that people are still trying to optimize for short-term keywords in search, but instead of using natural keywords in semantic search, excuse me, if you do use words like the, me, and for, then you're going to have a better chance of having that result in voice search. Excuse me. So tip number 9, longer content equals more voice search traffic. So remember before we said that only 29 keywords were the average on a voice search answer. But interestingly enough, the average word count of a first page Google result is around 1,900 keywords. The average voice search results page tends to be even longer. We found that the content is being pulled from pages that have about 2,300 words or more. So a page with lots of content is more likely to match a voice search query. Link authority, linking is still king. We found that the average domain rating is 76%, and the average page rating is 76 and 21. So they discovered that an average domain rating for voice search results was 76.8. But interestingly enough, the authority pages were low. And basically what this tells us is to help ensure accuracy, the voice search algorithm is most likely relying on domain authority over page authority, because domain authority is a more trusted source. So this is just very simple. Higher rankings equal an increased likelihood of being a voice search result. Basic SEO is still important. There's a clear connection between rankings and being chosen as an answer for Google Home queries. Specifically, it was found that 74.9% of Google Home results came from a page ranking in the top 3 for that keyword. Near me searches, everyone knows near me, by me, close to me, nearby me searches are very important today. It used to be in the again, I keep going back and forth, but in the past, if you wanted to find a dry cleaner in New York, you would type dry cleaner New York, right? So today, again, it's not New York, it's near me. So if I was in New York and I wanted a dry cleaner, instead of typing in dry cleaner New York, today I'm going to say dry cleaner near me. So make sure we're optimizing for near me searches, close to me searches, by me searches. Again, very important, as near me searches today are up over 900%. So we also want to optimize around phrases. And I'd like to use an example of my own, of where I live. So I live in Allen, Texas. That's the city. When I am searching for something, though, I put in my neighborhood, not the city, because the neighborhood that I live in is a neighborhood that's a large neighborhood within Allen, Texas. It's called Twin Creeks. And in Twin Creeks, we consider ourselves a community. So I want to be able to work with people within my community. So instead of optimizing around Allen, Texas, think about what's in your neighborhood, or optimizing for that neighborhood or that place. For example, on the slide here, you want to optimize, this is around Fenway Park. So if you're in Fenway Park or near Fenway Park, if you just left the game and you're looking for a place to eat, you may search for a place near Fenway Park where you're at. So make sure you optimize for places, not just cities, but neighborhoods, and also events and or tourist attractions. Very important for local search. So next we're going to talk about how you can see if you are in local search. So just a few key statistics again. 58% of consumers have used voice search to find local business information in the last 12 months. 46% of voice search users look for a local business on a daily basis. 27% visiting the website of a local business after making a voice search. 76% of smart speaker users perform local searches at least twice a week. And 53% searching using these devices, they're searching every day. So consumers are most likely to perform a voice search to find further information on local businesses that they already know about. And just 18% of consumers have used smart speakers for local voice searches. So we still have a lot of room to grow there. The reason why I'm telling you this is, remember how we talked about how voice is changing? Well, most important things that people search for using a voice device is to get the address. So if I'm searching for an address, that means I may want to come to your location, right? To get directions, to get the phone number so I can call you and order something, to find out if you're open or not, so I make sure I get there at the right time, to find out how far away you are, and then it goes into discovering new businesses, to order a takeaway, and to hear reviews or ratings, because now we have the ability to ask for ratings on these voice devices. So you can see how localized voice search has become. Again, and this is a study done by Bright Local, and it's very interesting to see how actionable these voice searches are for people who want to do business with a local business. So after you do a voice search, what's the next step? 28% of the people call the business. 27% of the people will then go to the website. 19% will visit that business location, and 14% will do more research on that business, and then 12% will do more research on another business. Again, very actionable for local site commerce. So it's all about the data. I've been saying that for years. Consistent, accurate data is the key. How propagation into these voice search engines work is very interesting. Okay? So if you look at this chart here, this will tell you exactly where your data needs to be in order to get into the voice search databases for these assistants. So if you want to be in Google, right, you want to be in GMB, and GMB actually serves Google Assistant, Cortana, and Siri. Bing, also, you need to be in Bing. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that shortly. You need to be in Apple, and you need to be in Yelp. So if your data is not completely optimized for your Google My Business page, your Bing page, Apple, and Yelp, chances are you're not going to show up for a voice search on Google Home, Cortana, or Siri. Now, if you want to be in Alexa, make sure your data is in the data aggregators, Neustar, Localese, feeds Alexa. And if you want to be in Samsung's Bixby, for any of you that have a Samsung phone and you use Bixby, then you want to make sure you're in here and Foursquare. So this is where it tells you, no matter how good you do on your website, you do your local SEO, you do your off-site SEO, and you send in the links, if you are not accurate in these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 databases, then you're not going to rank in a voice search at all. So Siri, Amazon, Alexa, Google Assistant, Cortana, if you go to these, a very simple test is just go to any one of them and just ask them where your business is located. It's that simple. That's how you can find out if you're in those databases or not. If it can't find you and it's not there, then you are not in that database. The next thing you can do is you can go to our website, make sure your data, run a free report at advicelocal.com, make sure your data is accurate, and we've recently, and if it's not accurate, you're going to want to fix it. You can use this as a tool to figure out what's wrong and go fix it yourself. And then make sure you optimize your Google My Business as far as you can. So let's just stop here real quickly, because Google My Business recently, over the last 6 months, have really changed their Google My Business platform, and it's making it so much easier for small businesses to get the data out there about their business. They've added messages. They've added questions and answers feature. As a matter of fact, on the questions and answers feature, you can go in and you can upvote or downvote the questions. If it's not an appropriate question, it can be deleted. But more importantly, you can even ask your own questions if you want to ask a question that you think people searching for you may want to see. So it's not just about having a verified Google My Business anymore. It's about completely 100% optimizing and writing every single thing that you can on Google My Business. And that includes the products or the menus and services section. So make sure you dig into that a little bit more and have that optimized. So really, there is no doubt that voice search is here to stay. You do need to do voice search optimization. You do need to do content optimization in the right way for voice search. And you do need to make sure that your citations and listing claiming is optimized and well maintained and in the right databases for these devices. So again, you can run to the dashboard. We've recently launched a voice search readiness tool. You can run a report and you can see if you're in these databases or not, or if they are in the database and has the wrong information. So this is very helpful. It's free to use. It's free to run. And let's see here, the next slide. Some other interesting things you can do. I just want to bring this to your attention. Everyone kind of ignores Bing, but unlike Google Assistant, Siri, who relies on Google search engines, Microsoft and Cortana draw web results from Bing and Bing Knowledge Graph. So Bing is often ignored by marketers, meaning lower competition and higher chances for securing top spots, both in desktop and voice search. You really should be using Bing Webmaster Tools to determine the essential areas for optimization. But remember, voice search also strongly correlates with local SEO, as the majority of users want to discover products and services that are close to you, right? So to secure a recommendation from a Bing-powered voice assistant, you need to be registered on Bing's Places for Business and optimize. And surprisingly enough, people continue to ignore Bing. So let's talk about Amazon Alexa's SEO. This is the smallest one, but it's growing very rapidly. 67% of all smart speaker sales in the US was Amazon Echo last year. Most people use it for finding recipes, getting instructions, or just receiving a quick answer to the query. But they've also, like I said, increased their actions from 30,000 to 70,000. So they are including Yelp searches, calling for Lyft or Uber, or ordering from Amazon Prime. So Yelp, let's talk about Yelp for a minute. If you don't have a well-optimized listing in Yelp, chances are you may not be in the Alexa voice search answer. So tip number 14 is make sure that you optimize Bing as well and Yelp. Also, make sure you use the proper schema markup. Everyone forgets about Bing again, but make sure that any markup you use is Bing friendly. And if you are someone who sells on sells products or services on Amazon, so Alexa today can only pick an order from a Prime shipping option. So if you're trying to sell product on Amazon and you want it to rank in voice search, it has to have a Prime shipping option. If it doesn't have a Prime shipping option, then it's not going to rank. Also, if you can become an Amazon choice, then Alexa always picks up Amazon choice products first. If none is available in a given category, then it defaults to the Prime label. So your two things that you want to make sure is, one, is it Amazon, can you make your product Amazon Prime shipping? And two, what can you do to make it an Amazon choice? And then don't forget Bing and Yelp. The next thing I wanted to talk about is Apple Siri SEO. So Siri relies, surprisingly enough, on Google search results for the majority of queries, except for location-based results. So when asked to suggest a venue nearby or look for do a nearby search, Siri will call Apple Maps, not Google or Bing. So make sure that you optimize your business listing in Apple Maps. Again, you want to use schema markup to give more context to algorithms about the content of your page, and make sure you go back and look through schema.org and look through all the new schema-specific formats that have been added recently, and be sure to check them against your site. And if you don't have it, then upgrade your pages to include that. So use your dashboard on a device to see if you're voice search ready. The time, my friends, is definitely now. We will soon reach a point where those not investing in voice search is going to fall way, way, way behind the curve. It's an obvious opportunity for us fast movers and early adopters to get ahead of the game, right? be ahead of your competition. And if you don't believe me that voice search is definitely here now, just ask Siri, ask Alexa, Google, Cortana, or Bixby. They will tell you voice search is here to stay. So recap, write content in natural conversational voice, focus less on keywords and metadata, focus more on semantic search, try to work more on user intent, provide an answer in a context, short and sweet, include longer tail keyword phrases within your content, be concise where possible, integrate structured data in your web pages to help search engines, and start working with Speakable properly in schema.org to provide identification for sections that are suited for audio playback using text-to-speech. The last thing is run your free visibility report, and if you want, you can download our voice search guide, the guide to getting found on voice search at advicelocal.com/voice. And I think that concludes everything I had to say in 82 slides and less.
Perfect. Thank you so much for going through all that information. A lot of good information in there. So we did have a couple questions come through. The first is someone was asking if you personally had seen Google's Q&A schema markup impacting results for voice search, and if you had, how?
So we do have been adding schema markup to a lot of our sites. And remember, we also have put some voice search FAQs that we've written mostly for voice search, and we have had a number of our smaller SMBs now when we say, give me a, I'll use one we just optimized last month, and they're ranking #1 in voice search now with the Speakable and the FAQs. Restoration One, number of the locations we've been testing it on, they have, the search has gone from, we have found 3 restoration companies near you to actually stating this particular company as the only choice. So yes, I would say we have, in some cases, we have that we're using both voice schema and optimizing FAQs. Our FAQs, we have seen a couple pop up to be the only result of voice search.
Excellent. Okay, another person asked another question about schema. They are wondering what type of schema is expected for voice, and is it available yet?
Yes, that's Speakable schema, and you can go to schema.org and just search for Speakable and use that schema on your site. It's best used on pages that have questions and answers. But anywhere there's content that you feel answers a question, you can use the Speakable schema. Now, it is relatively new, right? We have been using it, and it seems like it's been helping, but it's not going to hurt.
Perfect. And another question came through. How do you track voice searches?
I haven't figured that out yet, but when I do, I'm assuming I'm going to be a multi-billionaire. So that was very, again, that's going to be very difficult to do because it's just defaulting to mostly your name, address, and phone number. And if you are using your NAP number, not a tracking number, which as you should be, then it's going to be very hard to discern whether it came from voice search or a Google search right now. So attribution is still, I think, going to be a ways away.
Perfect. What is the first and best step that you would recommend for a local business to be findable in voice searches?
Go to every database that feeds these voice search devices and make sure your data is in those databases and accurate. Because you can do everything else, but if your data is not in that database, it can't find you.
Perfect. How do you see voice search changing over the coming months and years?
It's just going to get bigger and bigger, especially with the Internet of Things and more devices. I was house shopping this week, and we walked into a house the other day that has a smart kitchen. So I can actually speak to my oven and read the package label, or say the package label, and it will give me information back on how to cook it, where to cook. It's just amazing. Voice search is just going to become a bigger and bigger part of our life. It's going to be in every car soon. Right? It's going to be in our homes. There's already over 1 billion Google Home Minis or Google Home devices out there. And just let's look at Google itself. They're investing billions of dollars in voice search. They are going to figure out a way to monetize it. There's going to be an opportunity for them to make money on voice search for some sort of pay-per-click, I'm sure, or pay-per-voice. So we are still pretty much in the infancy, but there's only one way to go is up, and you have to be there.
Okay, we'll do one more question. What strategies do you employ to get a consumer visiting a business's website, considering more and more consumers are now getting their answers via voice search?
Well, remember on the one slide, 27% of people, after they do a voice search, go to that website. So people are, I don't know if there's a strategy to get them to go there, because in voice search, basically it says where you're at and how far away you are from that person. So I don't know if there really is a strategy today to get them to go to the website from a voice search, but 27% of the people today do go to the website after they do a voice search. So that's just another lead being sent to your site. And again, that's why I say you have to be there.
Perfect. Okay, thank you so much. And I have had a ton of questions come through asking about will these slides be available? And I just want to let everyone know again that this was recorded, and then you will have a YouTube link sent to you within 48 hours. So you will be able to go through this all again and sort of take in all of that information. And then if you have any questions or you want to be connected with Bernadette, just email us at webinars@thelsa.org. And if you want to take a look at what's upcoming too, you can always go on our website, lsa.org/webinars. And with that, thank you so much for attending, and I hope everyone has a great afternoon.
Thank you.
Thanks.